My wife of 12 years wants to leave me and take my son away from me. She wants to remarry her ex-husband because he is richer than me. I, 38M, thought I had a solid marriage. After 12 years together, my wife, 36F, and I had been through the ups and downs that most couples face. Jobs lost, health scares, and all the other challenges life throws at you. But we always stuck together. At least, that's what I believed. I never thought in a million years I'd be sitting here wondering how everything could fall apart so quickly. We have an 8-year-old son who means the world to me. He's my buddy, my little shadow. We go to the park, play video games, and I'm teaching him how to ride a bike without training wheels. I love being a dad more than anything. It's honestly the best part of my life. About 2 months ago, things started to feel different. My wife was more distant. She stopped talking about her day and spent more time on her phone. I didn't think much of it at first. Everyone has phases where they need a little space, right? But the change in her became more and more noticeable, like she was deliberately pulling away from me. One night, after putting our son to bed, I tried to have a heart-to-heart with her. "Is something wrong?" I asked. "You've been kind of distant lately." She glanced at me, then back at her phone. "I'm fine," she said, but her tone was flat, emotionless. I didn't want to push too hard, so I left it at that. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Then, one Saturday afternoon, I overheard part of a phone conversation she was having in the kitchen. I couldn't hear the other person, but her words made my stomach drop. "I don't know how much longer I can do this. I just want to be happy again." I froze, standing just out of sight, my heart pounding in my chest. Who was she talking to? What did she mean by happy again? I wasn't sure if I was ready for the answers, but I couldn't ignore the growing pit in my stomach any longer. That conversation haunted me for the next few days. I wanted to confront her, but I didn't know how to bring it up without sounding like I was eavesdropping or accusing her of something. Still, the tension in the house grew thicker. We were like strangers living under the same roof, barely talking unless it was about our son or basic household stuff. One evening, after our son had gone to bed, I decided I couldn't take the silence any longer. I needed to know what was going on. "We need to talk," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "Something's been off for a while now, and I feel like you're not being honest with me." She didn't even look surprised. Instead, she sighed heavily, as if she had been expecting this. "You're right," she said, setting her phone down, and finally looking me in the eye. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you." I braced myself. I had no idea what was coming, but I knew it wasn't going to be good. "I'm not happy," she started. "I haven't been happy for a long time. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to hurt you or disrupt our family, but I can't keep pretending anymore." My heart sank. "What do you mean you're not happy? Is it something I did? Something we can work on?" She shook her head, and that's when she dropped the bombshell. "I've been talking to someone. My ex-husband." For a second I couldn't breathe. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I knew she had been married before, but we rarely talked about him. He was from a different time in her life, before we met, and I never thought he'd resurface like this. What do you mean you've been talking to him?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "He reached out a while ago," she said, her voice quieter now. "At first it was just casual conversations, but over time we started talking more, and I realized I still have feelings for him." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After 12 years of marriage, 2 years of dating before that, and a child together, she was telling me that she wanted to go back to her ex? "I know this is hard to hear," she continued, "but he's doing really well for himself now. He's financially stable, successful, and I've been thinking a lot about our future." I clenched my fists, trying to hold back the anger and confusion swirling inside me. "So what? You're leaving me because he's richer than me?" She hesitated for a moment before answering. "It's not just about the money, it's about security. He can offer things that you can't." That stung hard. I'd always worked hard to provide for my family, even if we didn't have a ton of money. We had a decent life, a nice home, food on the table, clothes for our son. We weren't struggling, but apparently that wasn't enough for her anymore. "So what are you saying? You want to leave me and take our son with you?" She looked down at the floor, avoiding my gaze. "I think it's best if he stays with me. I don't want to disrupt his life too much." I was speechless. She was really planning to leave me and take our son away, all because her ex was richer and could give her a more comfortable life. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own wife, after 12 years, was sitting across from me, saying she wanted to leave and take our son, all because she thought her ex could offer a better life. It felt surreal, like I was in some kind of nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. "What about us?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though it cracked. "What about everything we've been through, all we've built together?" She looked at me, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes. But then, just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by cold determination. "I care about you," she said, almost like she was reading from a script. "But I need to think about my future, and our son's future." "Our son's future?" I repeated, my anger boiling over. You think ripping him away from his father and running off with your ex is best for him? I'm not ripping him away, she shot back, finally raising her voice. I'm just trying to give him stability. My ex can provide that in a way you can't. Don't you want what's best for him? That was the kicker. She was framing this like it was all for the good of our son, like she wasn't the one tearing apart our family for her own selfish reasons. You really think uprooting his whole life, taking him from the only home he's ever known, is what's best for him? I asked, my voice trembling with disbelief. She didn't answer. Instead, she just stared at me, like she had already made up her mind and was waiting for me to accept it. I wouldn't. No, I said, standing up. You're not taking him. If you want to leave, that's on you. But he's staying here, with me. I'm not going to let you just take him away and run off with your ex like this is some kind of fairy tale ending for you. Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time, I saw the steel in her resolve. You think you can stop me? I'll fight you in court if I have to, I said, my voice low but firm. I won't let you take him away from me just because you think you found a better deal. She stood up too, squaring off against me. You don't understand, do you? This isn't just about money or some better deal. It's about a future that makes sense. A future where I don't have to worry about bills every month, or whether we'll be able to afford a decent school for our son. He can give us that. And what about love? I shot back. What about everything we've been through? Does none of that matter anymore? You're really just going to throw it all away? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked over to the window, looking out into the backyard where our son was playing. I watched her, wondering what she was thinking, but part of me already knew the answer. I've thought about this for a long time, she said finally. I didn't want it to come to this, but I can't keep pretending like I'm happy. And I can't keep pretending that I don't want more for myself. I felt like a switch had flipped. It wasn't just about her wanting more for herself anymore. It was about what was right for our son. How could she think this was the best thing for him? Ripping apart our family, breaking his home just because she wasn't happy? And what happens when your ex gets tired of playing dad again? I asked, my voice thick with frustration. What happens when he decides this isn't the life he wants, and you're left standing there alone, dragging our son through this mess? Have you even thought about that? Her face hardened. He's different now. He's changed. He wants to make things right. Right for who? I shot back. For you? For him? What about our son? Have you even considered what this will do to him? She finally turned to face me again, and I could see that she had made her decision long ago. I'm doing this for him, she repeated, but it sounded hollow. And I'm doing this for me. I deserve to be happy. The room went silent. I wanted to scream at her, shake some sense into her, but I knew it wouldn't make a difference. The woman I had loved for over a decade was gone, replaced by someone who cared more about security and comfort than the life we had built together. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. If you leave, I said quietly, just know that I will fight for our son. I won't let you take him away from me without a fight. I don't want it to come to that, she said softly, but there was no warmth in her voice, no real concern for what this was doing to me, to our family. We can figure something out, but I can't stay in this marriage anymore. I nodded, the reality of the situation settling in. She was really going to leave. My wife of 12 years, the mother of my child, was choosing to walk away for a man who had already failed her once, just because now he had money. The next few weeks were a blur. We tried to keep things civil for the sake of our son, but every interaction felt like a battle. She started making plans to move out, looking at new places, and trying to convince me that we could co-parent amicably. But how could I be amicable when I felt like she had stabbed me in the back? One day, after a particularly tense argument about custody, she dropped another bombshell. He's offering to help with the custody arrangement, she said, almost casually, as if it wasn't a big deal. Who? I asked, though I already knew the answer. My ex. He thinks we should move closer to him, so it'll be easier for us to raise our son together. I couldn't believe it. So now you want me to uproot my entire life and move closer to this guy? What's next? You want him to start making decisions about how we raise our son? She looked frustrated, like I wasn't understanding her. I'm trying to make this easier for everyone, she said, her voice clipped. I don't want to drag this out in court. We can work something out where we all benefit. Where we all benefit? I laughed bitterly. You mean where you benefit? Where you get your comfortable life and your rich ex-husband, and I just get to sit back and watch you take everything from me? Her face tightened, and I could see she was done with the conversation. I've already made my decision, she said coldly. I'm leaving, and I'm taking our son with me. You can either cooperate, or we'll settle this in court. The day she left was the hardest day of my life. Watching her pack up her things, loading up the car while our son innocently played with his toys, unaware that his entire world was about to change, it broke something in me. I didn't cry. I didn't yell, I just stood there, numb, as she kissed our son goodbye and drove off to start her new life. She took him every other weekend at first, and we started the legal process to sort out custody. It was messy and painful, and every time I saw her with him, it was a reminder of how things had fallen apart. Then came the final twist I didn't see coming. One day, during a pickup, she pulled me aside and said, "We're getting married. My ex and I. It's what's best for everyone, especially our son." I felt like I was suffocating. She had really gone through with it. She was remarrying her ex, and now my son was going to be caught in the middle of this new life she had built for herself. A life that I had no part of. "What's best for him?" I repeated, shaking my head. "You keep saying that, but all I see is what's best for you." She didn't respond, just got in her car and drove away with our son in the back seat. Now I'm sitting here, wondering how I let it come to this, how my marriage of 12 years could end like this, how I could lose my family because someone else could offer more money, more stability. I'm not perfect. I never claimed to be, but I love my wife and I love my son more than anything. And now, I'm fighting for him in court, trying to prove that I'm still a good father, that I deserve to be in his life just as much as she does. But it feels like an uphill battle, like the odds are stacked against me. I don't know how this will end, but I'm not giving up. Not on my son.